Boggart is the most unpleasant of house spirits. They are such a malevolent presence that they are often hard to distinguish from an unfriendly haunting or a demonic presence. Remember the horrible legend from your childhood of the Bogeyman? Well, the bad news is, this fearful entity does exist, and it's more commonly called a Boggart. They can be persistent pests who can follow families from home to home if they are particularly angry or vindictive. The name Boggart comes from the English-Scottish borderlands, but their exact origins are not known. Entities similar to Boggarts have been recorded in the legends of many different cultures. Any household in any country is at risk of acquiring a Boggart. The good news is, they are more likely to live in bogs and marshes or in wet and filthy holes in the ground, so the homeowner can usually avoid attracting a Boggart by following a few very simple guidelines. Physical characteristics. Boggarts are varied in appearance and can be either gender. They have a humanoid appearance about half the size of a human being with filthy, blemished skin. They are usually deformed and twisted looking and wear tattered clothing if they wear any at all. They are either hairless or covered in a very fine layer of hair. There is no discernible difference between the genders, and the creatures usually appear androgynous, although it is reported that females are more likely to have noticeable head hair. They are always ugly with asymmetrical faces and disproportionate facial features. They don't seem to be capable of positive emotions and are perpetually in a sour mood. As a result, they will always have a scowl on their face. This causes deep scowling and frowning lines in their faces. It is not known what Boggarts eat, but given their preference for filthy places, it is thought they eat vermin, mold, or fungus. They have never been known to eat human food, so if you have a Boggart, the only plus side is that your cupboards and larder are safe from pilfering. Special powers. The Boggart has some mysterious powers, the full extent of which are undocumented. Their magical abilities mostly have to do with death, decay, and water. They can cause plants to die and decay rapidly. They can cause floods by apparently drawing water up from the underground. They have been known to cause death of insects, birds, and even household pets. They are not known for actual physical violence, and will bring about these deaths through the use of some form of magic that is centered around the worship of an obscure and little-known deity. This deity rules over death, decay, and marshlands. As stated, the full range of power which this magic affords them is not known, but they have an ability to transform into vapor and so avoid being seen. In this vapor form, they can hover nearby and spy on you, or go through keyholes or cracks in the wall, and so hide in attics or crawl spaces. They also have the ability to create noises as varied as knocks, crashes, animal mimicry, maniacal laughter, and sinister shrieks. Whether this is a magical ability or just an advanced form of ventriloquism is unknown. But the Boggart's main tool for tormenting people will be through creating sounds in this way. How to avoid. Unlike other house spirits, there is no reason for anyone to want to attract a Boggart, and so we will instead focus on how to avoid them. A household is not the natural choice of homes for a Boggart. They are drawn to marshes or any wet, cold, and dirty place. They prefer to be dirty and are very unhygienic. They will be perfectly comfortable in a wet, muddy hole surrounded by bugs and vermin. So by making your home as much the opposite of the Boggart's natural habitat, you can effectively keep it away. A well-cleaned and sanitized home which is warm and homey is utterly repellent to the Boggart. People who have been unfortunate enough to get one in their home often find their fireplaces doused or their heaters destroyed because the Boggart hates warmth. They will also leave trails of dirt on the floor and walls and will collect filth and vermin from other places to put in your home so they can feel more comfortable. Many verminous infestations are actually caused by a Boggart who intentionally brings them in so it can feel more at home. Although it sounds ridiculously simple, good housekeeping is truly the most effective method to prevent a Boggart. But some people keep their houses perfectly clean and warm and still find they've been unfortunate enough to attract a Boggart. This is because as long as there is somewhere on the property which is filthy and cold enough to accommodate them, they will come. If your attic or your basement or a hidden crawl space meets these requirements, the Boggart may set up home, regardless of how perfectly well kept the main household is. People with crawl spaces, which are often built on the bare earth, are susceptible to this situation. The solution is to keep the crawl space well aired so that it doesn't have too earthy a smell. Putting down chemicals which keep the earth dry, such as lime, is another solution. The smell of moist earth and decay are the most attractive scents to the Boggart. Mold or strong fungal scents are another thing which attracts them. So try your best to keep your home free of mold infestations. In addition, Boggarts are drawn to negative energies, and so they will be more likely to infest a home where there is a history of conflict. They are very spiritually crude creatures with animalistic and vulgar emotions, and so they are particularly repelled by spiritually advanced beings. A hob or a drala in the household will usually assure Boggarts stay far away and will behave themselves when forced to be in the vicinity. A spiritually advanced homeowner or entire family, which have lovingly reciprocal relationships, will have a similar effect. They will be intimidated or repelled by the presence of spiritual power and purity. So, loving relationships and spiritual practice like meditation are also good ways of ensuring Boggarts stay away. Attracting a good and powerful house spirit like a hob, drala, or domovoi will also ensure the Boggart stays away. Brownies can be bullied by a Boggart and may be driven out of the house if an aggressive Boggart arrives. But if your brownie population is high enough, they will successfully fend off the Boggart. There is a rumor that offended brownies can transform into a Boggart, but this is not likely, given they seem to be entirely different beings with almost opposite preferences and temperaments. Lastly, Boggarts usually come to a home for a reason. Usually, someone has come to its marsh or its bogey hole and has disturbed it. If you drain a nearby marsh or fill up a hole, the Boggart may come to your home because of anger or indignation that you have damaged its previous abode. If it finds your home just as suitable as its former residence, it may stay and decide to torment you in pursuit of its bitter and petty vengeance. So take care when digging or altering the landscape near your household, because Boggarts are motivated by hatred for the homeowner, and so they will feel no need to remain if a house is sold and new people move in. So there is no reason to fear your new home has a Boggart. If the house is sold, they will either follow the previous residents to pursue their vengeance and hatred, or leave in search of a new bogey hole in some nearby marsh or filthy place. This is one way to discern a Boggart from a haunting or a demonic infestation. The latter will always remain at the location and torment newcomers, whereas the Boggart will simply leave and not bother them. Benefits. There are no benefits to acquiring a Boggart unless you are a glutton for punishment or a practitioner of some dark magical art. Risks. Boggarts are nothing but risk. It is highly recommended you take every precaution described in the How to Avoid section above. Levels of evil and cruelty vary from individual Boggarts, but they will definitely cause your home to become cold and unwelcoming. House guests will always feel cold, uncomfortable, and unwelcome in your house. You will also feel these things, as well as a perpetual feeling of being hated. Homeowners often report a feeling of being stared at by someone with malicious intentions. Bogarts will bring filth and dirt into your home. They will encourage developments of molds and mildews. If your home is too dry, they will flood your basement to encourage molds. They will douse fireplaces and destroy heaters because they prefer the cold. They will bring in vermin and encourage infestations. All of this is to make the Boggart feel more comfortable, as they prefer filthy, wet, and cold places. Dogs or cats may be victimized. Bogarts aren't scared of these animals and will often torment them. In all likelihood, your pet will be terrified of the Boggart and won't try to confront it in any way. Pet birds, particularly, may be so tormented that they die of fright. Bogarts like to harass people in their beds and will usually get their jollies from terrifying their victims. They will often wake a sleeper by putting a cold and clammy hand on their mouth or laughing in their ears. They sometimes whisper crude threats or bang loudly on the walls or floor. If you own horses, the Boggart will certainly take pleasure in tormenting them. The skittish and nervous nature of horses makes them a perfect victim for the Boggart. This is so common that an old Lancashire saying describes such a nervous horse as having took Bogarts. They are more likely to harass someone they perceive as weak and helpless, such as a meek person or a child. This is why the legend of the Bogeyman is something which almost exclusively applies to children. A man or woman with a dominant personality will often intimidate the Boggart and may even cause it to leave. Like most bullies, they are not brave creatures. They are only brave when they feel they have an advantage. But before you try to scare the Boggart away with confidence and assertive threats, keep in mind that some Boggarts are braver than others and may react violently to your threats, especially given the huge advantages their special powers afford them. They may decide to use that magic to punish you for offending them, and they have been known to commit acts of violence as horrible as killing animals, kidnapping children, and even luring humans to their death in marshes and over the edges of cliffs. They won't directly attack a grown human being, but they can be horrifically cunning when motivated by vengeance, so great care is needed to assure you do not provoke the Boggart to an even greater malice. They are smart enough to devise a diabolical trap for you. As a final warning, it is unanimous in all the legends of the Boggart that you must not give it a name. If you name it, the Boggart will become much more active, much more unreasonable, and much more likely to escalate its mischievous activities, even to the point of violence. To rid your home of a Boggart, the only solution is to create the kind of home the Boggart hates. See the How to Avoid section to get all the information you need. If you create such a home, the Boggart will eventually flee in disgust. Changing houses sometimes works, but if the Boggart hates you enough, it will likely follow you anywhere.